This is Bob, and this is his cat Linus, and these are the Heavenly Soundworks 517 active bookshelf loudspeakers. What's up, everyone? Welcome to HiFi Turtle. Thanks for tuning in. I hope that if you like this video, give that big thumbs up as well as subscribe. It really helps me out. Today we're going to be talking about the Heavenly Soundworks 517 bookshelf loudspeaker. This is an active loudspeaker that has 3 Encore modules per speaker and is fully active. All you have to really do to use this speaker is add streaming. It comes in at $10,000 US, and that is for any finish. It comes in a variety of wood veneer finishes, but the one we're going to be looking at today is the ebony wood finish. So a few weeks ago at the Exponent 2022 show, I ran into John, who is one of the designers of Heavenly Soundworks. And we got to talking and talked a little bit about maybe doing a review or getting a review unit. But what ended up happening was John set me up with a client of his, Bob, who we saw earlier in the video, who was very gracious and invited me to his house so I could listen to the 517. Now, Bob also has a YouTube channel that he does with a few friends, so I'm gonna put that link below, and Bob did a lot of work for me. He went very in depth about these speakers, so I'm gonna let Bob talk right now for the next 4 or 5 minutes just about the details of the speaker, and then I'm gonna get to my impressions. So without further ado, let's get to Bob.
This is the back of the Heavenly Soundworks 517 speaker. They use Encore module for the electronics in the speaker, and it has some inputs and outputs. We're going to kind of talk about that. So 110 volt in, or in this case, then it has AES in and balanced XLR in. It has analog in on unbalanced. It has optical in on Toslink and SPDIF in on RCA. Then the output of the RCA here, SPDIF, goes to the secondary speaker. This is the primary speaker. And then these are pass-throughs. So the AES passes through and the SPDIF and the XLR passes through. Okay? So on the side of the speaker, so we'll just kind of turn it here, on this side and on this side are the passive radiators, okay? And the passive radiators and there's 3 drivers, the small driver, the large driver, and the passive radiators are in the same chamber. Then these 2 are in their own chamber, and each one of them is driven by a separate Encore module amplifier. So each one of them has their own amp, and everything is done in the digital domain before it comes to the speaker. So if it comes in analog, it gets converted to digital, okay, goes through the digital signal processor, goes to the amplifiers, and then out to the speakers. So the DSP manages the whole speaker system, okay? So that's the construction. It's an MDF, and then they use a nice veneer and then this leather inlay. Only the left speaker, which is the primary one, has a little indicator light on the front of it. And that one, and I'm just going to get the remote, and that tells you whether it's, what it's doing, if it's waiting for signal, if it's playing, if it's in overload, it blinks red, that kind of thing. The remote's over there, we'll grab the remote. So I normally feed these with an AES signal from a streamer, and we can talk about that a little bit later, but that's what I feed them with is AES. So that limits me to 24,192. I don't think you need any more than that for 99% of what you're doing, but that's the current limit. So on that, if you want higher stuff, then you put your own DAC in it and you feed it analog, and that's an interesting place to play. So you take a high-end DAC. We just had the Holo May Kisuni level 3 DAC in here listening, and some interesting observations on that. That's not what we're talking about today, but needless to say, you feed it bad, it sounds bad. You feed it good, it sounds good. You feed it better, it sounds better. So it's surprising, even with the conversion into the digital domain, to many people, how good stand mount or digital speakers can sound these days. Okay, so this is the HyPEX remote that comes from Encore. Okay, it has Left and right are change inputs if you're in manual input as a mute, power on and off. And the function 1, function 2, and function 3 buttons are used in the digital signal processor to adjust the loudness curve. So it uses a Fletcher-Munson curve. And that Fletcher-Munson curve varies on how loud the speaker is, what you do to compensate for human hearing. So for different decibel ranges, that's what that's set up for. And it's just a little plastic brick. Nothing fancy.
Okay, I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking, this thing's got DSP and it's digital and it's got Class D and I don't like that. I like all analog and I like the way it used to be and it's too complicated these days and oh my God, y'all kids. Well, sorry, Grandpa. You can go back to your rotary phone and your telegram and ditch your cell phone and everything else in the modern age, because I really feel like this kind of DSP all-in-one speaker really is something to behold and is, in a way, going to be the wave of the future, where we're going to see all-in-one or more integrated packages versus having 4 boxes, 5 boxes, 6 boxes, and then a pair of speakers. It's really amazing what you can do with DSP to make a speaker like the Heavenly Soundworks 517. And Jonathan and everyone else who has designed the speaker really has taken the time to make sure that this thing sounds really good and taken the time to craft that DSP to work with all the speakers in that cabinet, all the amplifiers, and match it in a way that it all blends into this great package. So let's get to the sound of the Heavenly Soundworks 517. Now, how would I describe the sound of the 517? It is a fun speaker. It is one of the most fun speakers that I can think of. It is still a very highly resolving and resolute speaker, but at the same time, there is this huge fun factor in the fact that the bass itself is so punchy, so apparent, so visceral that it comes at you, and anything you're listening to, it gives you that nice little bass punch. And I don't know if I describe it as subwoofer-like, because it's not. Subwoofer doesn't get down that low in the frequency, but it's a lot of fun and integrates very well into the speaker overall, which is the advantage of that all-in-one design and how they program it and make it work to be a cohesive package. So I know what you're thinking now. Well, you just said it's a fun speaker, so that means it can't be a hi-fi speaker. This is some party speaker. This is something you turn the volume up and blast some rock and roll music. Well, sorry, Grandpa, again, no one calls it rock and roll. Maybe back in the 60s, but not anymore, really. Anyway, no. It is still a very highly resolving speaker. The highs are super crisp. The mids are really nice. There is a very detailed and deep sound stage, and I think any audiophile can really appreciate this speaker. Now, I will say that the very astute and classy audiophiles that only want as the artist intended with no exaggerations whatsoever and colorations, ho 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 ho, yeah, maybe this isn't the speaker for you. But this is really a music lover's speaker where no matter what you put on, it was just so much fun and such a pleasure to listen to. It makes you forget for a minute that this is a very serious hobby, I guess, and that people want very serious things and the absolute fidelity and everything like that. It just was an absolute pleasure to listen to. And I feel like far too many times in this hobby, we forget to be music lovers and just sit down and enjoy it without having to worry about, oh, is this really the best amplifier that I could buy for this speaker? Is this the best DAC? Oh, this new DAC just came out. Should I go get it? Oh, this new amplifier just came out. Should I go get it? Oh my God, everything like this that I'm seeing online. People are saying this, people are saying that. It just all kind of melts away when you listen to the speaker and you're like, no, this all-in-one package where you just have the edge streaming is so much fun, such a pleasure to listen to, and doesn't really leave you desiring much more. I will say that listening certain times to more complicated music and where there's a lot of instruments and a lot of things going on in the tracks, there were times where some of the parts of the track could feel a little recessed, could feel a little drowned out by other pieces, but it was still incredibly enjoyable, incredibly fun, and I feel like some of those problems may have actually been Bob's room. Granted, he didn't have any treatment, and like I said, the sound staging was very wide and very deep, and his room is much larger than mine, so I think that played a very significant role, but I do think that the lack of mid-range clarity at times could really be solved by some proper treatment, so I don't want to criticize it too hard in that regard. Now, I know what you're thinking too. Well, you said all these great things. Do you prefer it over your Sopra 2? I think it's a very different sound than the Sopra 2. Still very enjoyable. Would I say the Sopra 2 is more enjoyable than the 517? I don't know. Do I think the Sopra 2 is more resolving and hi-fi than the 517? Absolutely. But that being said, for that all-in-one, no hassle, $10,000 price, and I will say I've seen it go on sale for some Black Friday deals and some other things, so it might be a little cheaper than that, and you can talk to Jonathan about that one. But it's so enjoyable, so fun, such a great looking speaker too, and just no hassle. And I think that's worth the dollar amount as well. So I would definitely recommend you try these out, check them out, make sure you listen to them, because honestly, at the same time, I would say, I don't know if I've heard anything that quite matches or presents itself in the way that the Heavenly Soundworks 517 does. So it is kind of in a different class or different league versus other traditional speakers that I've heard up until this point. And let me be very clear too, that this is just a impressions video, not a super serious review, because I was only at Bob's house for like an hour and a half, and I've never been to Bob's house. I don't know what his room sounds like with any other speaker. So my impressions on that is also very heavily influenced by this. But everything I heard from the 517 was very positive, and I definitely think that it's a cool speaker, and I'm very excited to see what's next for Heavenly Soundworks. So that's going to do it for me. Thanks to John for setting this whole thing up, and thanks again to Bob for inviting me into his house. It was awesome. We had a great time. If you like this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up, subscribe. It really helps me out. Check the links below in the description for other ways to help support the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.